Okay, I hope this is not gonna. All right, we are live now. Um, all right, Pascal, you can share the link. I think right now
Of
we are
course.
live. Yeah. So I want to start by saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers from wherever you are joining us from. Um, Today is another day of discussion. We are going to have a very important person today in our midst. Um, I it's Today is a special day. I call it a special day because this is a Labor Day in the United States of America, and it's a day that is meant for workers to rest. At least, having done a lot of work, you just have to take a day and rest, and tomorrow the work continues. So it's a very special day, and we are having a very important person today in our midst. Yates is the senior policy advisor of Ware County Government League, and he has been a very good friend of mine, starting from the time we were at NIU. And at the moment he is there, he has actually succeeded. He has been he has been like a motivational factor to me and to a lot of young people out there, looking at his career trajectory, how focused he has been. Throughout the time we were here in NIU, he's one of the top students in the class. And as soon as he even got full-time job while in the program. So he has a very inspiring story. So today we're going to discuss with him. We're going to hear from him about his personal life, his reflection about the Labor Day celebration, and also the issues around his leadership as an ICMA president of the students, his career development, and generally all the information he needs to share that will inspire the young people out there, because we look forward to seeing people's stories, because this kind of story is the kind of story that when young people out there hear, they would kind of use it as a yardstick to also develop themselves. So, Yates, if you are there, I'm going to start from asking you if you can briefly introduce yourself to our audience, your background, and what inspired your path into the public service.
Yeah, thank you, Stanley, for that welcoming intro. I really do appreciate it. It's great to see you again and be back with you, talking about local government, talking about public administration, and getting more young people into the profession. I think that's super important. But for those who don't know me, as Stanley mentioned, my name is Yates McLaughlin, and I'm currently the Senior Policy Advisor with the Will County Governmental League. My background is mainly in municipal management, local government consulting, and of course, some policy work, either through the federal government, the state government, or even local government policies, and things like that. So, what kind of inspired my path to public service is I volunteered a lot young, whether it was sorting canned goods at our local food bank, or we have a big gas company called Nicor, and they would sort canned goods. And I remember as a little kid jumping into each big cardboard box and sorting the canned goods for those around. And I think also part of that is seeing both of my parents serve the public young. My mom has a career in local government, and my dad, before his passing, was an assistant state's attorney. So both of them had experience and built their career around public service, and it kind of, I think, helped my love for helping others and shaped my view for the world. And again, I think the most important thing is how to make a good impact for your community. So that's what I would say is kind of what inspired my path into public service. And ever since then, we've been, excuse me, going into local government. I just had a baby in April, so We're teaching him young,
Wow.
making sure that he's knowing what local government's all about and public service. And yeah, other than that, just trying to keep my head down and serve the community the best way that I know.
Wow. That's so inspiring. Wow. Congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a new MPA student.
That's right. That's right. Class of 2044, I think we.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So looking back at our time together at NIU, so how would you describe your experience in the Masters of Public Administration program?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time at the MPA program. I thought it was really helpful to my career now, and then obviously kind of shaping certain aspects of governance and things like that, building off of my undergraduate degree. Every class was challenging in its own way, but at the same time, it brought real world applications into very complex subjects. So not only did you have interesting speakers come in a lot of the time, like city managers or elected officials, or specific policy individuals, but through your internship or at your current position, either working with the Center for Governmental Studies or working at a municipality, you're able to build skills that you could directly utilize in your day-to-day work. So that's what I think one of the biggest strengths is that connection to the local government network in Illinois, either through ILCMA, which I'm sure I'll get into at some point, APA, APWA, and like I said, or even the Center for Governmental Studies. The cohort model also kind of focuses on strong relationships with your peers. Like you, Stanley, how we met and we talked through the student chapter. A lot of the individuals in our cohort came from diverse backgrounds, whether it was city management, nonprofit leadership, policy analysis. Learning alongside those different perspectives, I think, added definitely a good layer of collaboration and perspective that's really hard to replicate in a lot of different places. So, I think suffice to say, the program not just didn't just give me the technical skills, but the confidence and the professional network to kind of excel in public service. So,
Awesome. That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. I mean, yeah, our time at NIU, it was a little bit challenging. However, it's kind of, just like you said, who broadens our mindset in the public service, in the career and everything. And I think it personally for me, it has actually given me the opportunity for me to uh, 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 excel in the public service. And at the moment, I am in my PhD first year in my PhD program in public administration. So I think the background in knowledge that I got from NIU kind of assisted me in the process and where I am today. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that. All right, so can you like share a little bit of the specific skills or lessons you got from NIU MPA program that have been most useful for you in your current career at your current place of work?
yeah, that's a good one. I would say. Um, Let me break it down into like three categories. So the
Yeah.
first would be financial management and budgeting, right? Like what we do with our finances, how local governments build their budget. Like learning how to analyze, develop, and communicate those complex budgets is super key, especially for what I do now, and especially in the local government field, whether you're the city manager managing the entire budget of the organization or even a department manager managing just a specific department, you're going to be dealing with finances, you're going to be dealing with financial management at some point. So I think the program did a good job at diving into like revenue forecasting, capital planning, cost benefit analysis, those kinds of things, which again directly applied to um, not only my current position, but my previous position as a management analyst in Lincolnshire when I managed $140,000 in special events and
Wow.
prepared financial impact analysis for our current 33 Will County communities. So I think in general, if I didn't build that financial management skill, it would be really hard to kind of go about making sure that, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed to make sure that we're spending money usefully. The second part of it, what I would say is like policy analysis and like legislative strategy. So how to analyze impacts and then present policy recommendations based off of that to a wide variety of stakeholders. Um, this kind of guides my work on complex legislative issues. For example, the grocery tax elimination in Illinois, as well as tier two pension reform impacts, which we're currently going through right now in the Illinois State House. So, um, seeing what's going to happen with that with regard to tier two pensions. But again, that's all of my work is to understand where we're coming from and what the impacts might be to local government. So. The third that I would say for specific skills would be like organizational leadership and team management. So, I think with like understanding organizational culture, leadership styles, and change management, all of that, one of the most inevitable things you're going to have to deal with in your career is dealing with other people, right? And dealing is a harsh word, but working with other people, right?
Yeah,
Understanding how to deal with different personalities and maneuver your way through complex situations where you might have to have conversations about a disagreement is super important, but also finding the balance between administrative, political, and community roles as somebody in local government is super crucial too, especially when you're considering leadership strategies that, mayors, trustees, or managers might face, where you have to talk to individuals that make those decisions and you might have to provide a recommendation. You're going to have to understand there are going to be questions that come with that. How do you maneuver through people who may have certain biases or certain preliminary understanding of the issue at hand, things like that. So you're going to have to deal with a lot of people. And I think that NIU really taught us how to maneuver through that and also understand your role in the process of going through those stakeholders. So those would be the three. I'd say financial management, policy analysis, and organizational leadership, among a plethora of others. I'm just picking those three.
yeah, wonderful. Wow. That's very apt and very, very important. The MPA program has a lot of skills, and specifically, it has, from what you just said now, it has actually helped you. And I remember that in those days, you just mentioned when you were talking about budgeting. I know how difficult it was for us to navigate through the process, but I really see it as a challenging moment for me in the MPA program, and it kind of broadened uh, my knowledge in the program, and I know a lot of things I've a lot of times I've actually reached out to you, and you have been of great help to me throughout that time we were in the program. So thank you for that, for sharing that information with us. All right, so let's talk about today. Let's reflect on the Labor Day celebration. In your own analysis, Labor Day is very meaningful holidays in this United States of America. What does it personally mean to you as a public servant?
Yeah, that's a good question. Will we get the day off? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, no, I think in general, Labor Day is definitely more than just a 3-day weekend. I think especially now that I've gotten into parenthood and postgraduate, I've really thought more about why I chose public service in the first place. I think Labor Day to me is a good way to honor the hard work, dedication, and resilience of people who make our communities thrive. So whether it's first responders to public works crews to teachers like my wife, she's a third grade elementary school teacher, local business owners, and just everyday residents. It's the individuals I see kind of firsthand how policies that we may have an impact on or we help understand and create, and the programs we implement and continue directly impact working families, whether it's investing in infrastructure, protecting public safety, or expanding opportunities. You see that throughout the community. So I think that Labor Day reminds me, at least, that government exists to serve the public good. It's a day to celebrate work, to reflect on how far we've come, and obviously to kind of recommit ourselves to ensure that every resident has a chance to to do well within a community and to know that they have people working for them that are doing well to uphold their opportunities in their community. So it definitely motivates me to keep showing up, keep listening to diverse perspectives, and obviously keep working on solutions that can only make our communities stronger. Obviously, not just on Labor Day, but every day. So I would say that's like the biggest thing that I think of is it reminds me every year of why I chose public service in the first place because again, 90% of people out there are probably like it's a 3-day weekend and that's great, but it's also super important to realize how far we've come in terms of um, working in a community, developing impactful solutions, and making sure that when you leave your community better than when you found it.
Sure. That's wonderful. That's a very nice, insightful conversation over there about Labor Day. I mean, one good thing is that it's a day of rest. Yeah, you rest today, and
Yep.
yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. Now, how do local governments in the US typically engage with citizens during Labor Day celebration and observances? So, how does municipalities within the country engage with their citizens during this period of resting, and what are the observances?
Sure. Um, I would say every community is going to be different, right? So not everybody follows a certain script or um, certain things like that. But I would say that I think in general, the communities that do celebrate Labor Day out and about, normally it kind of manifests itself within hosting a community event. This could be a parade, maybe kind of in the park type of concert, some sort of family-friendly activity. A lot of other communities will recognize workers within the organization. So some city councils will issue proclamations or do employee spotlights or kind of like social media communication thank yous, not only
Yeah.
for public servants within the organization, but local businesses, that kind of thing. I guess the other thing maybe that I could see would be encouraging like civic pride. So highlighting maybe some labor history, workforce programs within the area, the regional area, and then of course municipal services, maybe that somebody might not know of exists, whether it's
Yeah.
collection, certain rebate programs, things like that to highlight kind of the labor history of a community or of a region, maybe even a state. So I think in general, municipalities use Labor Day in different ways to either celebrate workers, build on their own community, or of course, strengthen connections with their own residents.
Sure. Wonderful. That's nice. So, what do you think that other developing countries, especially countries like Nigeria and other countries in Africa, can learn from the way the US recognizes the dignity of labor? Because I want to believe that Labor Day celebration is a day we respect the rights of laborers, which are the workers, their rights, and then we also it's an opportunity for community participation in governance. So, what do you think other countries around the world, like some countries in Africa who have not actually been uh, technologically developed the way that US and other Western countries are today, what do you think, or what do you advise that they could learn from US mode of celebration of Labor Day?
That's a good question. I think something that kind of comes to mind is that I think in the US, particularly, Labor Day honors all types of work. So either from, skilled trades to public service, that's why it's a federal holiday, and
Yeah.
ideally everybody would have off work. So I think that kind of the having the total spectrum of types of work resembled in Labor Day is obviously very important to celebrate workers at every level, kind of reinforcing that respect for contributions across different types of industries. That's something that comes to mind. I think again, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, and not to necessarily t touch on it too much, but just in terms of thinking about Labor Day, is the labor market in the U.S. evolved from decades of, union advocacy and labor reforms, and how do
Yeah,
we make our employees feel better in the workplace, and how do we make the workplace better? I think one of the things is like structured worker representation and stronger labor policies are always, I think, good to ensure safe conditions, fair wages, and protection from those types of things. So I think that's something that I really think of is looking at it in total of the U.S., thinking about all the labor reforms the country has gone throughout its almost 250-year history is something that I
yeah,
think about on Labor Day. And then lastly, it's again, like you said, it's not just about rest. Having the day off is great, but it's not just about rest. It's about that community building. So I think the other part of the coin is doing some type of community exercise, whether it's a parade or whether it's doing some sort of community event where people get together and enjoy their day off together, rather than maybe just, wasting away at home for a little bit or whatever. Getting out into the community and meeting new people, I think is something that would encourage civic engagement. And
yeah.
you can involve workers, businesses, residents, non-residents, everybody can kind of come together and to celebrate a day off of work, but a day that we get to kind of build community a little bit together. So those would be the things that I would think of. Um, Again, that I kind of think of when I think of Labor Day, but yeah, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, Labor Day is something that there's something I've observed in the US Labor Day. It's something that they have made it a unifying public holidays for both people in public and private sectors.
Yeah.
Everybody observes it. So I think having lived like like a decade of my life, like 3 decades of my life in Nigeria, I have witnessed a lot of labor participation in the country, and I've come to realize that mostly that a day like this is more of observed by the government or people in the public sector. Most private sectors do not actually enforce it the way the US does that. So I think it's something that our people back home in African countries, Nigeria and other African countries should make it compulsory for even private organizations, even domestic workers should be allowed to enjoy today, because as a worker you need this kind of time for recreation, for reconnection with your family, for reconnection with your friends and all that. So I going back, I think is something that I would advise other African countries like my country to kind of imbibe in, if there is a way they can make it compulsory for every sector, both private and non-private sector, to kind of make sure that everybody enjoys it, irrespective of your level of position in the service, even if you're even if you're an ordinary cook. If I should use the word ordinary, that's if there is anything like an ordinary, because every worker has some level of dignity protect. So thank you so much for sharing that insight with us.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about your leadership and then ICMA experience as the president of leadership. So, as the president of ICMA, so as the president of our, as the former president of ICMA student chapter at NIU, how did that role shape your leadership skills and professional network? How have you tried to imbibe your role as a leader in your current professional work? How have you tried to bring it up to your current place of work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really enjoyed my time with the student chapter and um, built a lot of good connections and things. But I think what it really did is built my confidence and broadened my professional network. And I think
Yes.
honed the ability to lead collaboratively. I think a lot of the time, I love the quote, if you've ever seen Spider-Man, Uh, any Spider-Man movie. Uncle Ben, who's unfortunately the uncle that passes away in the movie, he always
Yeah,
tells Peter Parker, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a quote I think about almost every day. And what I mean by that is not necessarily that, like anyone in a leadership position has great power to do anything, but what I typically think of it is you're in a position of leadership, therefore you have a great responsibility to help those around you, to lead collaboratively. And so I think it gave me like early exposure to opportunities in public service and again provided the relationships and skill sets that guide my career today because I deal with 33 different communities in Will County. Every single one of those communities has a certain mayor, has a certain board, has a certain manager, and you're dealing with so many different personalities. And so it's important to lead collaboratively, bring in somebody or a business that may contribute to the conversation that's good. So I think we did that a lot at the student chapter, whether it was bringing in certain speakers to come and speak to our students, certain opportunities that we had at the ICMA conference, collaboration with other universities, those types of things, I think really balanced, helped me realize that there was a balance for students, practicing professionals and things like that. So, again, how do you motivate a group, delegate responsibilities effectively, and managing
yeah,
some priorities. I think I use that every day in my job, again, based off of how many communities we serve, and then just on a day-to-day basis, how to communicate effectively and how to know that the people, like I'm a big proponent of servant leadership. So the
yeah,
way that we are in leadership roles is not necessarily from the top down. I see it more as the kind of flip, right? My goal is to serve you the best, and if I'm not doing that effectively, I need to figure out a way to best make sure that the people that I'm leading are in a good place before
yeah,
myself. I need to serve them. So if that makes sense at all, that's kind of what the student chapter role taught me.
yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, one thing it's one thing that is well known is that delegation happens at every level of someone's, and you learn a lot about delegation from your leadership at both the at your young age and when you finally get into the profession. So, and I kind of like how most universities does gives us the opportunity for us to hold leadership positions while we were still in school. So it's not all about academics, academics, academics.
Hmm.
So because you would need some kind of skills, some kind of leadership skills at every level when you leave the university. So for you to become a wholesome employee, you need to have both the academical skills and then the leadership skills, networking skills. All of these skills are very, very important. And I'm happy that the MPA NIU really exposed us to those kind of opportunities. And that is what has kind of shaped our current status in our different professions at the moment. Thank you so much for sharing that insight with us.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. All right. So let's talk about a little bit about this ICMA. A lot of people have been maybe asking questions. What is ICMA? ICMA is an acronym that stands for International City and County Management Association.
Mhm.
So could you please explain what it is, why it is important in the context of local government in the US?
Yeah, for sure. So as you just stated, ICMA is the International City County Management Association, otherwise better known as ICMA. Um, and it's a global professional organization kind of dedicated to advancing like professional local government leadership. So mainly the manager, the council manager form of government. So where you have a city council, an elected board of individuals, and then you have a an appointed city manager who kind of leads the day-to-day operations of the municipality. Now, you don't have to be a manager to necessarily get a membership to ICMA. There are plenty of, obviously students can get a membership, assistants, anybody in local government that wants the membership can get it. But to be an actual voting member of the organization, you got to be a city
Yeah.
manager or an assistant city manager. So it was founded in I think the early 1900s, 1914. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 1914. But ICMA supports city, town, and county managers, policy advisors, other local government professionals through a wide variety of education, research, and networking. So those three big aspects. So education, they host a conference every year among a plethora of other virtual educational seminars that you can and attend. Research, you can submit articles that ICMA will help you publish. And,
That's
kind of forecast on in the coming months. And then networking, I think that's one of the most important ones is providing an area for local government leaders and city managers to get together and talk through what are you going through right now? What are some of the problems that you're facing or challenges that you're going through in your community? Because guess what? Maybe I have a similar problem and we might be able to kind of help each other figure out some of the solutions to those. So I think promoting professional management is super key. One of the biggest things about ICMA is they have a code of ethics, and that kind of bounds any member to make sure, if you're a city manager, you're not accepting, certain monetary payments from local businesses. You're being ethical in your leadership, and I think that's super important. It provides again training and resources. They have an ICMA credentialed manager, which looks better if you're looking for a new job and things like that. And then building that professional network is super important. Again, Stanley and I ended up going to Columbus, Ohio for the ICMA event and Austin, I think. Yeah, Austin. And both those events were incredible. We learned a lot, met a lot of new people, and definitely a good opportunity to get your name out there, especially if you're kind of still going through the program and looking for a full-time position in the future. Great, great opportunity to have the network. And then, of course, it advances innovation and equity. So I think in general, there's plenty of different committees to be on to talk through these issues and make sure that membership knows that what we're doing is up to date in terms of practice. What do we do on certain issues? And making sure kind of everybody's on the same page with that. But the good thing about ICMA is that almost every state, I think, almost every state has their own state
yeah.
affiliated sister organization. So in Illinois, instead of ICMA, it's ILCMA.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so there are kind of sister organizations that are within each state that do the same thing that ICMA does, but more of on a state level. So that's something to be on the lookout wherever you are right now. I know Michigan's got one, Wisconsin, Illinois, Texas. Again, plenty of others, I'm sure. I don't know the Virginia one. I know Stanley's over in Virginia. I don't know if there's a Virginia one, but
Yeah.
I'll have to look up that here in the next few hours. But yeah, so they're a great organization. They've helped me out a lot in my career and again, build up that network and then provide those education and training opportunities.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a very wonderful organization that has actually shaped most of us in our career, in our career development, and just like you said, a lot of different states are doing the job of this same kind of a thing at their state level. So I just came to Virginia, I think a couple of days ago, I mean, weeks ago. So I think it's something that I have to find out. Now I'm in the public administration program, PhD public administration program. I still want to continue, and then I'll find out the one that is currently existing here, and I'm sure gonna definitely identify with them because the knowledge and the skills, the networking skills, the leadership skills I've really acquired being part of that organization has really shaped my career trajectory. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. I think a lot of people who may not know what ICMA is are currently on the know of what it is and other information that are relevant. All right, so how do platforms like this ICMA help young professionals and students prepare for impactful career plans, I mean, in the public service? How is this ACMA helpful to we, let's say, those of us that are young students, those of us that are students coming up, and then probably those who are already young professionals, maybe the newly graduates, how has this ICMA helped them transform or transition into full public service role?
Yeah, I would say they really help young professionals prepare for their careers by offering the education, the mentorship, and then the professional connections is the biggest one. Um, because I think most of what the resources that ICMA and those types of organizations provide is kind of like bridging the gap between like the classroom work and then the real world that you're going to be moving into very quickly. So I think in general, they really help you establish that. The network is the biggest one. I can't tell you how many people I met at ICMA that I see out at other events or engage with in job interviews or engage with in whatever else it is throughout my career. That you might bump into because it is a small world.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to develop yourself through your network and then utilize those training opportunities to learn something you might not know. One, for example, is I remember doing a meeting on labor negotiations. So, like and fire unions, how do you go into those conversations being confident? How do you make sure, everybody's being represented and negotiating correctly? Those types of things. I think you wouldn't have that training unless you had organizations like ICMA play that crucial role. Um, I kind of forgot to mention earlier, but there are sister organizations involved in ICMA that are not state oriented, but that are within that kind of consortium. One of them is called IAMA, and the other one's called the Legacy Project. So
Yeah.
which can offer unique opportunities to engage with those within your specific career path. So IAMA are the Illinois Association for Municipal Management Assistants. So management analysts, assistant managers, people that are just up and coming into their career who are starting out. There's an organization for you to kind of dig into and meet people that are like you. There's another one called the Legacy Project, which is an ILCMA sister organization that is for women in local government. So if you're curious to see those perspectives and be around people that are going to have similar circumstances as you, it'd be interesting to get into that networking and meet people and get accustomed like that. So again, I think the most important thing that platforms like ICMA does is build your professional connections and then offer that educational aspect of going to different seminars and things like that.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's nice. Um, it was very wonderful sharing that insight with us. And then I kind of mentioned one more thing that ICMA does to professionals like us. I think one of the good things that they do to you to help the students to transition fully into the public services, the ICMA fellowship. I think the local government
Mhm.
fellowship program. I mean, it's one of the biggest thing that they have. I think they have done to help a lot of young professionals to transition into the public service fully. So I think mostly they do it every year. Those who are graduating from the MPA, they normally organize like kind of a competition where you have to write some words of essay. I mean, some like I think 700 or 1,000 words essay or so. I think I participated in it in 2024, and I was even selected as the amongst the finalists of that process. And it kind of helped to, helps you to kind of link you up with the cities and counties around within the US that would kind of give you opportunity for you to serve 1 to 2 years as a management fellow, and within that period, you kind of network, gain some level of work experience, and God on your side, if you finish and you had a very good time with them, and it can possibly give you a full-time role into either that local government or any other local government around the world, around the country. So
Hmm.
I've at least witnessed a lot of people who are currently in there. I think this year, I think they had about 27 fellows or thereabouts. And we are happy to say that two people from two MPA students from NIU got into the
Right.
fellowship this year. Yeah, Micah and what's her name?
Was it Emily?
Was yeah, Emily, yeah.
Yeah.
So both of them are currently enjoying that privilege, and we are happy. Yeah. So we say kudos to ICMA for what they're doing, and we keep looking for more opportunities from them as time goes on. Thank you for that.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about your career. Yeah. After your graduation, I observed, you're my classmate, so I'm observing. So you began your career at a village of Lincolnshire, yeah, and now you are serving as a senior policy advisor at Wales Government County. So can you kind of share what the journey has been so far? What have you been experiencing? What have been the challenges, the successes, starting from village of Lincolnshire and now at Wales County Government?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the middle of the MPA program, I began my career with Lincolnshire as a management analyst in the manager's office. That was after finishing up my internship with the city of Lake Forest, where um, Lincolnshire was unique because I had the opportunity to wear many hats, if you will, overseeing special events like our Halloween Boo Bash and our Lincolnshire Lights, our holiday festival. Um, so it was great. I got to manage communications and develop budgets and collaborate across departments on capital projects and community engagement initiatives. It was really a good opportunity to get like really in depth within local government. Um, I think in general that led me on to doing more policy work and understanding a little bit more of um, policies from the federal and state government that may impact local governments. And that kind of drove my love for impact analysis and understanding the policy. Where's it coming from, right? And so that led me to becoming the senior policy advisor with the Will County Governmental League, where again, I focus on legislative strategy, policy analysis, and then, of course, intergovernmental collaboration for our 30 plus member municipalities. Some of our bigger cities within Will County are Plainfield, Naperville, Joliet, Romeoville, and those are some of our bigger communities within the Will County Governmental League. I draft legislative digests for our mayors and managers to understand what's coming down. I've been developing a training program for newly elected officials and coordinating advocacy efforts and things like that. Um, it's kind of allowed me to take the skills that I built in Lincolnshire and NIU, revolved around analysis and then collaboration, from budgeting to stakeholder engagement and stuff, and apply them on a more, maybe a little bit more of a broader regional scale.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I think in general, it's been incredibly rewarding. I've learned a lot in my time so far. Um, it keeps, I tell my wife all the time, it deepens my passion for public service. I really enjoy serving communities, and now I get to do it to
Yeah.
33 of them, which is pretty crazy. But again, it kind of reinforces my belief that like local government is truly where the impact happens. Not for lack of a better a term, not in DC or not in Springfield or Illinois. It's going to be in the community that you live in. So it's been a lot of fun so far, but again, that's kind of where my career has guided me so far. So
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, for sharing
yeah,
that insight with us. Yeah, I'm really happy. Um, Learning all of this today, I feel like, oh. we have a lot, we have a lot to experience in our different careers. Thank you so much about that.
Mhm.
So, what were some probably key challenges you experienced or key challenges and successes you experienced transitioning from being a student, from your student life to a full-time public service?
Mm.
Yeah, what were the challenges and successes you experienced while trying to transition?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think obviously going from school to your career comes with its challenges, but again, like I said, I think it was really rewarding the most. But I'd say the biggest adjustment from going from school to full-time career life is understanding the fast-paced, like unpredictable nature of local government.
Yeah,
Lincolnshire, for example, I learned really quickly to juggle multiple priorities from, again, you're managing budgets, pushing out social media stuff, communicating with residents, doing capital projects and other research, often with, limited time. So you gotta learn time management and how to do those things effectively, not just so, in school it was to get a good grade, but this is to make sure that you're serving the community the best you can, right? Um, so I think it was definitely a good like crash course on like adaptability and problem solving. I learned so much there about making sure you're managing your time effectively and being adaptable because inevitably in local government, I think this is kind of maybe where I'm going with it. Inevitably, something's going to go wrong. You know what I mean? That's not to say I hope it goes wrong,
yeah,
but inevitably something is going to go wrong in local government that's going to make you go, all right, we got to stop. We got to find a solution to this first, and then we'll be good to go to kind of move forward. So I think it taught me that local government is super dynamic and collaborative. I think in the beginning I would sit in my office like, all right, I got these problems that I got to do with, and I got to figure out a solution. What am I gonna do? But then I thought in my head like, you have so many other people around you that can help you, you know? And so being collaborative is also the biggest element. You're not alone in this. Is everybody in every department is going to have an opportunity, um, to help you if you have a question or if you need some help on a project. And so I think, again, like we had mentioned earlier with kind of leadership qualities, is like not necessarily delegating, but finding areas where let's collaborate on this. It'd be nice to have some help, or I really appreciate your perspective on this issue because it's going to help me a lot. Utilizing those people and making sure that, everybody's contributing is super important. But again, know that local government is super dynamic. It's always going to change, and never expect it to go the way that you think it is because it probably will not. But that's okay because we're in the business of problem solving. So,
yeah. That's a very insightful response to that question. I mean, one very important point I picked out from your response is that when you talk about school, it's all about making good grades. But when you
yeah.
talk about public service, it's all about how do you serve the communities better.
Hmm.
So it's so in both of them, it's one thing that is very connecting in both of them is that there is a goal. There is always plans for improvement in both as a student and as a public servant. So uh, how do you make it better for them? And in all of this, you keep improving yourself. You keep doing things. You keep trying to see how you can make it better. How did you do it in the past? You do evaluation, monitoring, and all that. So it's something that is very, very important. And we kind of learn some of these things, just like you said, trying to make good grades in school. You kind of learn most of these things in school,
Hmm.
how you manage your time. Because in school at the moment, just like when we were in NIU, we have to juggle with our classes, our assignments, our work, and all that. So how you manage your time very well makes you a very competitive employee when you get into the work full time. Because At that point, you have a lot of projects on your table. You have a lot of senior managers you're going to report to. You have a lot of people you're going to collaborate with. You have your group that you're working with, and also the higher um, echelon of the organization, which you are also going to report to. And so from time to time, you make presentation, just like in classes, at every class, at the end of every semester, we present what we've done in that course. That
Hmm.
gives you the final grade for that course. So the same thing. So I see, school is a very, very good opportunity for people to transition fully into this. And transitioning from a student life to a full-time public servant, I don't think you would have much challenge because you have already been challenged as a student. And if you're able to manage yourself very well as a student, I believe you will surely manage yourself very well as a full-time public servant.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So we are kind of coming down to more specific advice you would kind of give to young people out there, because just like we do in our platform, we try to look at people who have succeeded in their career, people like you who have succeeded in their career, and share your story, just like you've shared your story so far, how you started as a student, how you later transitioned into a full-time role and all that. So this kind of story is a story that when young people out there sees it, they would be motivated to do more in whatever they are doing. So in your perspective as a full-time public servant who started very little as a student and now as a full-time public servant, what qualities makes international students, or especially those from African countries and developing countries like Nigeria, stand out in academic and professional settings? At least you have actually experienced working with international students. At least I am one of the persons, one of the international students we worked with. So what do you think makes us stand out in our academics and professional setting?
Yeah. I've again been so grateful to meet a lot of folks that we engage with in our program, like yourself, Stanley, and like Micah that you mentioned earlier. And I think from my experience, like working with those international students, they often stand out because of the resilience, adaptability, and diverse perspectives. I think many navigate significant transitions from, moving across the world basically and adjusting to a new, um, you know, culture and learning different academic and professional systems. And every person that I've worked with and had the pleasure of being around has done it with determination and focus. Like, how do we solve this problem? And bringing their perspective. Well, okay, well, back home, this is how we would do it. And I think that's really, really important to understand. And um, gave me a lot of perspective. Again, like bringing global insights and sharing approaches to governance and policy shaped by unique challenges and opportunities is great. And I've found it really fascinating to learn more about the complexities of certain circumstances that have come up in their experience. And I think the international students that I've been with have always brought that perspective to conversations, and that's super important. And then professionally, I've found that many like international students have demonstrated a very strong work ethic, resourcefulness, and definitely an eagerness to learn, right?
Yeah.
I'm very curious about, not only like what do I need to do to fulfill this, but what do I need to do to get this right? How do I
Yes.
actually learn about um, this topic and not just fulfill an assignment, but like what does it actually mean in the broad scheme of things? And I don't think you see that with a lot of people sometimes. And so it was really refreshing, especially when we'd be in group work or talking through in class discussions. It was really it kind of opened up the discussion a little bit more broadly and definitely made me think harder and made me realize a little bit of things that maybe in my head I think are assumptions, but can never be assumptions if the
Yeah.
perspective that people are bringing up is different, you know? And so I think that that's super important. And it made me learn a lot about obviously the world, but two, how to get from point A to point B and actually really internally realize some of the concepts and topics that we were talking about.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that insight with us. I mean, most of the folks on our audience are mostly international students, and
Hmm.
they have really, I mean, getting to hear from the horse's mouth that
Yeah.
you have observed that international students are resilient and they are very resourceful. It will make them to, motivate them to, whenever they see themselves in a position, they try to align so that they maintain the pace. They maintain this pace which others who have gone before them have actually set up.
Hmm.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
So, what would be your advice? Let's be a little bit more specific now with international students who would want to transition into public service and leadership role. So, what do you advise them, I mean, international students from developing countries, how would you advise them to, be focused in getting into the public service? Because public service is a very big industry in in the world of work. So
Yeah.
those who are aspiring to get into public service, what is your advice for them?
Yeah. Oh man, that's the golden question. I would say find what you truly like to do. Obviously, we're all in public service and we all want to do the same thing, which is serve the public, but I want you to think about how, whether it's planning, finance,
Yes.
public works, public safety, you know, networking, whatever it is, being on the educational side, whatever it is, and chase that as far as you can. Um, do what you like to do. And I think that that's really important. One of my favorite quotes, and the other part of that is one of my favorite quotes is by Aristotle, who was a philosopher who said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence then is not an act, but a habit." And so I think find what you try to what you enjoy and soak up every single ounce you can. So there's so many resources out there to utilize and people to meet. So just be yourself and keep working as best you can. And I really think about that quote because, again, excellence is not an act, but a habit. And so keep doing that everywhere you go. And then lastly, I guess I'll just say take time to enjoy yourself. We're all in public service, not to be stressed out beyond belief, but to really feel like we're making a change. So, um, for example, Labor Day, right? Take it, enjoy yourself for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that would be my advice.
Okay, so thank you so much for that advice and for that insight. I'm looking at the questions from our audience. I mean, before I go into maybe the last question I wanted to ask you, let me take some questions from the audience,
Sure.
who have been listening to you. I've been asking alone, so let me bring up
Yeah.
their own questions. I think one person asked us, Raymond asked a question about what are the challenges that you have faced in public service that you didn't anticipate?
Mm, that I didn't anticipate. Yeah, that's a good question. You know what I didn't anticipate? I think one
Yeah,
thing that I've always, I think, learned throughout my career is I'm going to try to be as confident as I can. And so throughout my career, I've always tried to be very confident and very forward thinking. Um, and what I found when I got into my career is you don't know everything, you know? And I think it's really it had to humble me for a little bit because I went in being like, man, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to solve this problem from point A to point B. And I think everybody in public service will tell you you're never going to have the answer for everything, right? And that's okay. And that's kind of where I learned that professional network, right? Your academia and your policy and your ability to think, read, and write and everything up here, but then your
yeah,
network and your connections is over here. sometimes you got to use your network, right? And that's what I mean about the importance of ILCMA and APA and APWA and those organizations is because if you don't know the answer, you have plenty of people that you can ask for help, right? And I think it took me a while to realize that because I felt really challenged and I was upset. I was like, I don't know how to solve this. I think one example was we were doing a new emergency notification system, and I was trying to get all the contacts from the old system onto the new system, and I couldn't do it without spending hundreds of hours trying to copy and paste everything over. And so I had to ask, somebody who was in the realm of IT and, was a master of Excel, how to do it. And they ended up solving the problem in 20 to 30 minutes, right? And affording me some of that kind of answer. So that's what I would say is it challenged me to think about you're not going to know the answer to everything, but
Yeah.
you're going to know where to find the answer. And I think that's super, super important for people early in their careers. Be honest with yourself. If you don't know the answer, that's fine. But you're going to have people in your professional network who are going to know and who are going to be able to help you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's a very nice, insightful response to that question. And I also have another question from the audience in the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah,
So another question from the audience. Someone is trying to know if she can get into the public service with a science background. So, we have been talking about public administration. Those are in public administration and those that were expected to. But this person is trying to kind of find out if she can get into the public service with a science certificate, science background.
absolutely. 100%. Yes. There are a plethora of opportunities in public service that revolve around, science degrees. I don't know exactly what degree you'd have, but I'd be curious. There are a plethora of opportunities, whether it's working with the Public Works Department to be a sustainability coordinator. I know a few of individuals, one that we actually went to school with, Cecilia. She got her degree in environmental science, right? So she was very kind of science focused, but then ended up going into her MPA and is now, working on the public works side. And I know a lot of
Wow.
other individuals who do work with sustainability officers. And so they kind of work around certain ideas of making the community more sustainable. So how do we make things more efficient and more sustainable for our community? And then, you could obviously find certain ways of going into engineering or architecture and things like that, which are a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
more tied to science. So doing the blueprints for new buildings, new developments, things like that. So again, there are a plethora of opportunities out there. Finance is another one, data science and things like that. So um, again, if you have a question about your specific field of work, I'd be happy to answer. But in general, again, you're gonna find every route, path, and road leading to public service as a possibility.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, of course. The public service, the local government is like I said, it's a very big industry,
Yeah.
and it's open for everyone, irrespective of your academic background. And there are a lot of rules that are even there are even very much rules for science people. I think mostly people, the GIS, I think,
Yes.
geographical information system, I think it's,
Yep.
people with skills in data analytics and all that. So, I mean, it has a lot of rules, and just what you need to do is align your job I mean your kind of your career role. I mean your career development. Align it with what you plan to do. So it's all about what do you want to become after your graduation.
Yep.
So within the time you're in school, you'll be doing internships in those areas so that probably when you graduate, when you're interviewing for any kind of role, at least you have a basic background of the role you're getting into.
Hmm.
So you should be able to say if you are in an interview, you should be able to kind of have a general, even if you don't have the in-depth knowledge, but at least have a basic knowledge of what you're actually getting into, so that when you get into it, it won't be difficult for you to fit into it fully. Because, of course, I believe that there is always mentorship when you get into any role in any organization. So, but then you don't, we can only mentor you when you are mentorable. So that's what I always tell people. We mentor people that are mentorable. So that's that. I think there is another interesting question from the audience in the YouTube, people that are listening to you. This person says, "So what point did you think, realize that you belong to the public sector?
Sorry, could you say
At
that one
what
more
point of
time? Oh,
your
sorry.
career did you realize that you belong to this place?"
Oh, like what point in my life did I realize I was going to the public sector?
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. Well, when I was a kid, I told my mom I wanted to be the president, and she was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
okay."
a very
You know what I
big
mean?
ambition.
Like, okay, we'll see if that happens. But I think ever since then, I kind of doubled down. Obviously, wanted to be president, but because of that, it got me into history. It got me into, government, how things work, and I think it really led me on to like public service and community engagement that way. So I would say like probably like middle school, maybe even a little bit before, like fifth grade, sixth grade. So I was probably around 10 or 11 at that time. That's when I started volunteering a lot and getting in touch with the community, and doing more things that revolved around serving people. And I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, sorting canned goods or, volunteering at a public event and selling tickets and doing things like that. And so I think that led me into wanting to like serve the public for good. And so ever since then, I've kind of maneuvered my life, even when in high school and maybe in early college, my bachelor's degree, where I didn't know specifically what I wanted to do. I know the essence of what I wanted to do was to serve the public. So I'd say around 10 or 11 though.
Wow. That's great. So I got the point. You want to be a president. I hope you become a president one day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We'll see about that. But yeah, that's where I started. So
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Um, okay, so one more question from the audience. Um, so this person is trying to know what she needs to put in place to succeed in public service. What does she need to do to be a successful public servant?
to be a successful public servant, I think the biggest thing for me is always think of your audience. And what I mean by audience is like not who's watching you work or who you're going to for projects or your boss or whatever. What I mean is who is it affecting? Who is it for? So for example, for special events, when I did that in Lincolnshire, I'm not thinking about, I have to do this and I have to make sure that my Excel sheet is all good to go and my budget's all good to go. Obviously, that's important to think about those things. But what I mean
Yeah.
is, what I'm thinking about is all of the families and kids that are going to come to the event. How are they going to like it? And I think when you constantly revolve your brain around the individuals that are going to be receiving the public service. That should help, motivate you as to the work that you're doing and the importance of the work that you're doing. So I would say that would be a big one, would be know your audience and, again, make sure that you give yourself a some grace in terms of you're not going to know the answer. Um, to everything. So utilize your network, utilize the people around you to help you, because I guarantee 99.9% of the time, there's going to be somebody there who's done what you've done before and knows how to help you through it. So that's what I would do. I mean, I can't tell you how many other, classmates or colleagues of mine that I've called now about, so I got a problem and I need your help, and they help me through it, right? So definitely utilize that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kate, for all these insights. Um, uh, I think I have to answer the final question before we call it a day because
Yeah.
I actually wanted to have this for just 1 hour, but we're a little bit above 1 hour. But then let's just take this final question and then we call it a day. So in conclusion or in summary, if you could leave our audience with one key message about resilience, leadership, or purpose, what would that be?
Hmm. Because I'm a major proponent of servant leadership, of
Mhm.
serving the people that you lead, I would say that leadership is rooted in service. And I
Yeah.
think as we go through our life in public service, any type of leadership that you have has to be rooted in serving other people. Um, so yeah, I would say that leadership is rooted in service, and I think resilience, as you mentioned, is
Yeah.
rooted in challenges. So leadership is rooted in service, and resilience is forged in challenges. That would be what I would say.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yates, for sharing your insights. And I believe that our audience have really gained a lot of new insights from you. And just like we always say, or just like we always do here, we try as much as we can to uh, look for individuals who have succeeded in their career trajectory, and we kind of uh, bring them up to listen to them and make them be part of share their stories, how they succeeded, and this kind of serves as a motivation to younger ones who are coming up. And then there's, this reminds me when I was still young, when I was still trying to come up to the level that I am today. I used to watch a lot of YouTube. I used to watch a lot of people speak on podcasts like this. And one day I watched one, I said to myself, Stanley Peter, you're going to be here one day. I want to be here someday because the person's stories that day, he shared his story that day, and it was so inspiring, so insightful. And I said, if this person who came from a very, I would say, humble background could get to the level he is today, I believe I can be there someday. So some of these stories we bring up here, we don't you never can tell who is listening to it and who is being inspired by what you're saying. And we are happy to have you today, and we look forward to have you more because as time goes on, there are other events, there are other educational programs that we will be having at Education African Scholars Global Connect. So our audience have really enjoyed you today, and you can see they participated, they followed all your stories from beginning to the end, and they have been asked, they are eager to know more, and that's why they are throwing their questions in the chat box. Thank you so much, and may God bless you and keep you in your service, in the public service. Thank you so much, and may God bless.
Thanks, Stanley.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation. I want to thank the audience. When we speak and nobody's there to listen, and then it becomes useless. But then we are happy to see that a lot of people joined us in the session and they listened. And this video remains on our YouTube channel for people who were not able to join now that it's live. So you can always click the link and watch it. And for those who may have missed any of the sessions or any of the questions he asked, you can still go and rewatch it. It is there forever in the YouTube channel. So subscribe to our YouTube, always follow the link, and we will be bringing up programs, bringing up people from different places, from different angles of life to make sure that we motivate these young ones and assist them the much we can. And yeah, a lot of people have been asking us questions about our scholarship. I mean, I want to speak that very soon. I want to tell you guys that very soon, in a couple of a week, 2 weeks, we are going to announce. I have been getting a lot of, I don't have enough time to reply messages. A lot of people have been sending messages on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and other places, WhatsApp. I'm giving you direct information now that we are going to release the results of our essay competition, international essay competition, in the next 1 to 2 weeks, because it delayed us. It delayed. We had a little delay in getting that result out because we had more applications than we expected. We were thinking that we are going to have like 10 or few 15 persons, but our applications were getting into almost 100. So we didn't have enough people to evaluate. So uh, our committee are just about 8 to 10 persons. So I think from what they said recently, they have concluded with and they are rounding off with the listing. So I know that our applicants are eager to know the results and the winners of that. So I'm giving this of the opportunity for you guys who have applied to come down. Very soon. We're going to publish it on our website and then on our social media platforms. Thank you all for your active participation. We keep bringing you more news and more good things as time goes on. Thank you and have a blessed and a wonderful Labor